Hi, I don't usually do plastering. I do it occasionally, every now and again when I need to, but unfortunately our plaster is going on holiday now, so I have to do a little bit of plastering. So decided, whilst I'm doing it, I'll make a little video, so you guys or who is interested can have a look and maybe learn from it. If you got any comments, please put it down below. Just again to say, I'm not a professional plasterer. I learned how to do plastering. I can achieve professional finish, but I don't do it every day. Don't do it day in, day out. I hope you're going to enjoy the video, and please subscribe. Thank you. Before you start, you have to make sure that you have large mixing bucket, about 30-40 liters, multi-finish plaster ready, your trowel, hook and flattening edge all nicely cleaned, and plenty of clean water. Also make sure that all joints on plasterboard have been taped up with scrim tape and plasterboard is being fixed securely. Start mixing. We put about 10 liters of cool clean water in the mixing bucket. Just over 3 sheets of plastic. Mix it thoroughly until it's more consistent, making sure that you pick up all any dry plaster from the edges and mix it in. Always wash your mixer immediately, and this is how consistent and smooth plaster should look like. Wet your tool. It's very important to have all your tools, the hook, trowel, the lot has to be wet. Never apply plaster to any dry tools. I'm right-handed, so I will start from left-hand side of the wall. Start from the bottom and smoothly glide plaster up. The thickness applied is about 2-3 millimeters, maybe 4 millimeters in some places. Spread the plaster evenly over the whole wall, as high as you can reach, and then use a trestle or hopper to get to the top and apply plaster to the top. Do not try, at this point, do not try to make it perfectly smooth and flat. Fresh cup of coffee from customers is always beneficial. Now I'm going to be using a flexible flat edge. I made it from a sheet of plastic, and just use it to flatten up the surface. That's why I said earlier, whilst you're applying plaster, you don't have to make everything perfectly flat, because immediately after you apply it, you can use a flat edge and just flatten the whole surface down. And this is how it's
going to look like after flattening the first coat of plaster. At this point, clean up all the tools, wash out, and prepare the bucket with clean water for next mix.
So this is the first coat of plaster, multi-finish over the plasterboard. Few little notes. All mixing equipment, tools, water has to be clean. If you use any contaminated or dirty water, it will reduce time for set on the plaster, might even make it crack or fall off, or even go hard in the bucket whilst you're mixing. So always use a clean water, clean buckets, and clean tools. Now the base coat or first coat, it's like a priming coat, backing coat, and that's the one that gives the body to plaster and levels out any smaller imperfections or dips or anything small, anything small that's up to a couple millimeters of unevenness, that will flatten it. And the top coat that we're going to put on later on will be applied much softer, wetter, and in a thinner coat. And generally, as a rule of thumb, you would use half the amount for top coat to what you used as a base coat. So if you use a 1 bag as a base coat, you will use half a bag for top coat. Now, once it's applied, as you saw, I used a straight edge to flatten the surface to get rid of all big lumps that I might have put on. And you should have, I mean, you can get a little lines and little bits like that. That's all fine. That's all fine on the base coat. You have to leave, once the base coat is applied and flattened, you have to leave it to dry out partially to get to the point where you can run your fingers without pressure. You just run your fingers and they should not sink in. Should not move the surface. You can see here, it's not enough. It's still moving the surface, and the plaster is coming off on my fingers, just really gently. And if it does it, it's not ready. You have to leave it until your fingers will sort of glide over it without digging in, and then we'll be ready for top coat. You mix up top coat exactly the same way as a base coat, again with all clean water and everything. And as soon as you finish with applying, you will have to wash all the tools and the buckets and clean up so it's ready for next coat. So there you go, that's the first coat applied. It's curing now, stabilizing, getting ready for second coat. Right, well, 20 minutes has passed, so let's do another test. You can see it's leaving a mark on. It's digging a little bit into the surface, but it's not leaving big amount of stuff on my fingers. So this is ready. So surface is slightly slimy, but the back of that is actually solid or getting solid. So this is now perfect time to apply second coat, top coat. second coat is applied. It's fairly flat. It's much thinner than the first coat, half the thickness. After application you still have all these little lines, but they are really miniature. Do not try to get rid of them at this stage. Just apply it as even as you can on that first attempt to the second coat. Just leave it. After about 5 minutes you can play a little bit around the critical areas like sockets, light switches, behind the pipes, just to flatten it a little bit, and then we'll be cleaning up the edges. After the second coat, leave some of the excess of plaster somewhere on the side, because you might need a little bits for repairs whilst you're finishing. Clean up all the tools, wash it out, ready for next steps, and then spend a bit of time cleaning up and tidying up edges, like corners, around the sockets. Be careful with electrics. Around the doorways. Just take the excess off. And against other walls. I'm using this double-sided small tool. Find it always. Don't worry about roughness of the edge. That will be sorted in next step. You just want to get rid of that dry, crumbly material from the edges. You can actually go slightly into the corner. Anything from the surface of the door. And also from the bottom you can clean up so it doesn't leave uneven area for the skirting. That's cleaning the edges. So once all the edges have been cleaned up, again it's a waiting game with a cuppa. We're again waiting for that moment where the surface is still slightly pliable, but the backing is gone off more solid, because we want the backing to stay there and just move the surface around when it comes to finishing. You still have these little lines. This is really close up, it's about 4 inches away, camera. you can see you got these bits. But don't worry, they're all gonna disappear. Right, it's about 20 minutes gone. Let's check now. Yeah, you can see we're having the same situation like before with the first coat, where the top coat is moving surface slightly, but you're not digging into the base of it. So that's now ready to start playing with it. I always start from the edges and corners. So you have a trowel that we're gonna wet. Always use wet tools. So nice wet trowel. And it's gently going to play with these corners. You put in, slide, move downwards. You don't have to do too much. And you can see there's still some roughness there, but that's not issue, because we will smooth it even more. And what's happening when you do this, because surface is still slightly pliable, you're getting this nice sludge on edge of the trowel, and that is used to fill in. Right, let me zoom in. So you see that little piece there? It's gone. So all you need to do, just go around bit by bit and just play with it a little bit to get it a bit smoother. You can't make it super smooth. All you can do is get rid of the rough edge. So see that edge there? Compared to what we started with. So at this stage do not put any water on, because it's still not, surface is not hard enough to apply water on. This is just a little bit of tidying up the corners. I'm not doing anything on the mid surface yet. This is just tidying up the corners. Because if you put water on now to try to do wet troweling, you will remove too much of surface material, and you don't want that. You just apply the plaster, you don't want to remove it. Extra attention to corners. It always helps when you put a trowel in, move it along, and then move it off. Don't just go in, off. You want to have a slide and glide over the surface, so you don't dig in. Once you've done all the edges and it's still pliable, with a trowel that has that slurry on, you can just do a gentle glide over the surface horizontally. This time, because when you applied plaster, trowel motion was upright, and that already gives you some flatness. That it's not uneven, it's just different shine to it. And all you do is just move the surface a little bit, and by doing that you're flattening further any small uneven areas, any little notches, dinks, anything like that. It's just moving the material across the surface. I can see here, right there, there's some hard spot because it's a leaving line that is 90 degrees of my trowel. So I'll pick this out. It's a bit of stone. So using that sludge, right there, put it on, and just let it bubble up like that. And when next passes, it will just disappear. Always be careful around the sockets, especially if they're still connected in live. Always advise you disconnect power when you do these things, because electricity and metal trowels and water, they don't mix very nicely. So that surface now is fairly flat, but not fully finished. You can see that is flat, but not fully finished. We're now waiting for that, probably another 5 minutes, for that to just go off a bit harder, and then we'll start applying water and do wet troweling. During this stage of pre-flattening, this is how much material is left on my trowel. You don't want to remove stuff off the wall, you just want to move it around. So I've done both sides of the wall, inside of the shower area and inside of the utility, and this is the excess. So don't remove it and throw it away. Literally just move it around the surface. And this is the stage now where if you had any accident or anything that you dug in with a trowel and you need to apply some more material, say for example like down the bottom, I'll demonstrate, but it doesn't matter. If I dug in and I get that, yeah, that's where this leftover of material comes handy, because you just pick that up, put it on and firmly push it. And flatten it. Okay? And it's good to use that leftover of material because that's same age as that, mixed in same time, been curing in same time, and they're very similar in properties that you're gonna need during finishing. So now wash up all the tools and wait another 5 minutes. After about 5 minutes, let's try our little finger glide test. The surface is hard. You can see it's just picking the moisture up. Fingers only picking the moisture up, they're not picking material. That is now getting ready for wet troweling. It's leaving mark on the wall, but it's not digging into the surface. We start again with the top. Soft brush, moderate amount of water on it. Go to the top corner and you brush in. Also, you gently brush over the surface. That's why you have to wait this much. Because if you do that too early, what happens is you will remove material. You will brush will dig into surface. Then again, wet trowel, clean, and then just start moving it about. You can see that line and that slurry, that sludge. That is the material is going to help you to smooth up the lot. This is called now wet troweling stage. This is the one that when you start doing this, you can actually see how smooth the surface becomes. And you have always make sure that you glide wet trowel over the surface. Don't glide dry trowel because you will drag material off the surface. You'll ruin it. Always keep it wet. There you go. Now I'm going to repeat on the rest of the wall. That's look after wet troweling. Good differences in shine, but that will all disappear in next stage, next step. All this complete plastering thing takes about 4 hours. That's guided by the material itself. Very hard to speed it up, and you can't really prolong it. That is it. Material guides you. So I'm going to leave it now another 5-10 minutes until it starts firming up, and then we're gonna go over it again, but this time without so much water. Now final step, it's about 15-20 minutes gone. You can feel on the hands that, can you see that? The surface is fairly hard, and if you rub it you would start getting these little bits coming off. So now it's time for dry troweling. Well, call it dry troweling. Actually, trowel has to be wet, soaked, but clean. Like that. And firmly push in to the surface. And just glide. Right, if the trowel should not, well, trowel should not pick up anything. If you start getting any bits like, oops, like that, like drugs, that means you need to apply more water to it, to the trowel. So get a clean bucket. Just keep the trowel wet. And just firmly push it in. You have to sort of bend the blade of the trowel. So if you're looking at the trowel there, you have to sort of bend it slightly. Every now and again, wet the trowel. It's called dry troweling, I think, because you don't apply water directly to the wall. Just keep your trowel wet, which is different to the previous one. And by doing this, you can actually adjust your pressure. You can stop start at any point. I can feel drag, so wet the trowel. If you make it shiny. So I prefer to leave it this matte finish. This is shower side. It doesn't have to be smooth, as long as it's flat, because it's gonna be tiled.